Welcome to the Power of One. Today I'm going to be speaking with Andre Nelson Jr. And yes, this is my oldest son, AKA oldest baby. And we're going to have a conversation about anxiety, about pressure, about depression as an African American male. Welcome to the show, Andre.
Thank you for having me on.
Andre, let's start out with your childhood, or let's start out with your schooling and tell me how, let's start out with your schooling and tell me how your journey was with elementary school, junior high, and high.
For elementary school, I got bullied a lot. I didn't, say anything, but the things that I was going through that kind of continued, but not as much into junior high and also continued into high school. So my schooling experience wasn't, the best. And I didn't really know how to share my emotions or think that anybody was going through what I was going through. I think that they would, understand it. And growing up with the stigma that, as black men in the community, if you go to counseling, there might be something wrong with you mentally. So didn't do that. And from what I was taught, from my father, this was as this was years ago, that as a man, you don't cry, you don't be your own. I'm not gonna say the actual words, keep it PG, but just having those teachings ingrained in me at an early age, and then really push me to seek help, just kind of figure it out on your own, and if you can't, just deal with it the best you can, move on. So
Now, when you say bullied, was it physical? Did you get beat up? And viewers, I don't know this information. Let's be clear about this. I was surprised that my son wanted to do the show. So was it physical? Were you bullied? You know what I mean? Was it physical or verbal, mental?
it was mostly verbal from what I can correctly recall. And I believe there was only one time where it was physical, but one time in, I believe, elementary school, and twice in high school. Well, I vividly remember where I got jumped twice in that area where 21st and Godfrey is. It's like a known hot spot over there for drugs and everything else. I don't know if it's still like that.
Mhm.
There's only those three times in my life that I
Okay.
can remember.
Okay. So now I remember the two times with you getting jumped, which was horrible. And I know that that just changed your whole makeup. But would you classify that as a form of bullying?
You can classify it and you can't. I think for mine, I believe I recognized one of the dudes, one of the guys. This is probably the second time. This is the second time. So really probably only happened twice for the physical aspect of it. That it was just
So,
one of the guys that I kind of knew up at the school, but the other time it was two unknown individuals that I didn't.
mm, so okay. Now, one of the times, the guy that you knew, is that the time when you called dad and told dad that you got jumped and dad drove you back down there and said point him out, but you didn't?
Yeah, yeah, it would have to have been that time as far as I can remember. Yeah.
Okay. So was this person in your class?
He was in a couple of them, to the best of my knowledge. It's I knew of him, but it's I didn't know him. Yeah, he
So
wasn't a
he just,
stuff my
when you
class.
was just walking down the street, he just started hitting you.
Yeah, it was him and another guy that I didn't know that that was both there and just snuck me and jumped me from there. So
Why didn't you point them out to dad? Because you knew it would just be a horrible outcome either way.
yeah, either way, because I already knew. Yeah, because I already knew it wasn't gonna end right for both parties anyway.
You did nothing. You know what I'm saying? And this is what kids are going through today. Like AJ, that seriously altered you. That messed you up. And I mean, I'm glad I made the decision. Like, did they bother you again after that time?
No, not to my knowledge, no. Like I don't have any like clear, vivid memory of them like, mess with me again. So yeah, I don't have like, no memories of that to my knowledge.
I mean, I remember sitting on a porch. You know what I mean? That just bothers me. But it's just like kids like that. There there was a kid. I remember reading an article of this kid that went to Pennypacker school. I think he was 10 years old. And he came home and told his mom he had the worst day ever. That 10-year-old boy actually hung himself.
Yeah, I
You
think I
know what I
remember
mean?
about that. Yeah.
It's it's just it kids are cruel. You know what I mean? And not all kids. Did I have my fair share of, bussing on the kids when I was coming up? Yes, I was a bald headed little girl. So they talked about me every day. But it wasn't like physical. So how did that getting jumped twice? The first time you got jumped, you didn't know those boys.
Nah, it was probably just dudes from around the way.
How did that alter you?
Well, starting off, like I didn't really like trust anybody. Like I was always like paranoid of like, who's into what, like being paranoid of anybody, like, looking at me any like, type of way that would kind of signal to me that, okay, yeah, that they might, do something, to me, or just like, just overall like paranoia and just not trusting anybody,
And even though you had a loving family, your whole dynamic was altered, right?
Yeah, yeah, to a degree it was.
I could tell because it like hurt you to smile. Like you were damaged. You know what I mean? And that's messed up. Again, I just think so many children are altered because of it's some senseless act or something like that. Now, those and I don't even know why I'm asking this question, but those guys, like how did it stop?
Just the overall bullying or
No, when those two guys, the one from the school and then the other guy, how did it stop with them hitting you?
oh, with the I know with the one from school, like I managed to like, get away from them thankfully. And the other ones, I remember getting hit and falling down to the ground. It was like during the winter time. Like just got like, hit, fell to the ground and they like probably like went around the corner. So
Mm.
like what was that? So
And see, and again, as a parent, and then you think about and you hear this other stuff, and then you hear about parents getting involved in kids' stuff. You know what I'm saying? Again, I'm going back to dad, and if you would have pointed them out, you know what I mean? It's just I don't know. It's senseless. So, how did that affect you as an adult?
uh, the same paranoia, just thinking like, people out to get me and be not like, having like, trust or, love, for my own, people. Just like, just like, mainly paranoia, just like, not thinking that somebody's gonna like, hurt me physically, but just thinking that, something's like, bad gonna happen. Something bad is gonna happen around the corner. Sorry, I can't speak. I just got off work about an hour. Yeah, it just kind of made me feel like, they like, nothing good was coming my way, or it just kind of like sapped me of like my happiness because I'm always, thinking of, people harming me in some way, shape, or
Did it lead to depression?
form. Yeah, it added to it. I was, well, as you know, before, the whole bullying situation. I was depressed then, but that just kind of like added to it.
So what are you doing to get help now?
Now we're going through, y'all, my family, but going through like, y'all and, getting like, counseling whenever I need it, but like just like going like, to take a drive out somewhere, cooking, praying, doing any of
Now,
those. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
And I was just gonna finish up just like, doing any of those, things or, going to the masjid around my way, just, doing those things would kind of like, relieve stress and like, sadness and like, that would just have me going about through my day the way I needed to.
Does this affect your everyday life? And does it affect your job? You being effective completing your task?
I would say so. Yeah, it's not as, thank God it's not as drastic as it was years ago, but sometimes it does, crop up, here and then, and it kind of prevents me from completing the tasks to the degree that I know that I can complete them in, turning assignments in on time and things like that. But yeah, but again, it's like, the whole paranoia, depression, and sadness, it's not as much, but it's still there. But I have like better mechanisms of curbing those feelings off and then just, being like, happy or content with the rest of my day than, starting over tomorrow, being better than what I was before.
So now let me get this straight. So you thought because of how society says a man should be, you just sucked it up and went to school and dealt with it the best way you can, as opposed to now, I would always talk to you, what's going on, but you wouldn't always open up. Was it that you found it was hard to open up? Or again, how society has it, I'm just going to suck it up and do what I got to do?
I would say it was both, and some pride in me, like being a man, like I'll like figure this out, how to deal with it, some way, shape, or form. But it's a combination of all those three things.
Did it ever become unhealthy where you thought about harming yourself or harming somebody else?
Yeah, yeah, more than a couple of times, but but I
Which
haven't,
one?
I haven't had those like thoughts often. So
Which
yeah,
one?
back then, for both like harming myself or like harming others. But again, like thankfully I haven't had much of those thoughts. Like they would come up, from time to time, but not frequently.
Now, when you thought about harming yourself, were you young?
I say in my well, yeah, like early to mid teens.
Mm,
Probably early to mid, yeah.
and I never knew that. I
Yeah.
never knew that. Hmm. How are you coping today?
Praying, going through y'all and just kind of now I'm like, practicing mindful, meditation if my day is like, too stressed, if anxiety is bothering me throughout the day, I usually just try to like, say like, positive, affirmations to myself and get myself to think and focus on different things rather than staying like, in that negative, mindset. Once I do that, like, for a certain period of time, maybe 2 to 10 minutes or 2 to 5, depending on how my anxiety is like, getting to me, then, I can pretty much go throughout my day, carefree for the most part.
What advice would you have for a young man that's being bullied, which I know happens every day, physically and verbally, mentally, in school? What advice would you have for that young person?
Really to go, like, talk to your family. Like, you can always talk to them, even if you don't, think that they would, like, understand, what you're going through. Like, to seek help through counseling or, like, depending on which, denomination of, like, religion that you practice, to go seek help from God and, always like, know that you can like, rely on your family, or if you have friends that you're really close to, you can like, lean on them, whenever you need to. So that's, pretty much, my advice, the best advice that I could give that helped me out,
Are
growing up.
you are you healed today or you're still hurt?
No, I'm pretty much healed. Those like, thoughts of like, way back when come up every now and then, but it's, I can pretty much shake them off, without much issue. But, thankfully I'm, you know, much better. I would say that I'm like, healed from all the past trauma, things like that.
Mm. Have you ever seen the guys again?
No, mainly
Mm.
because I don't stay down that way. But yeah, but I haven't seen like any of them, again. So
Did you have ill feelings for them?
yeah, yeah, I did.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's hard, hard for a parent to go through watching your child suffer. I mean, I remember having a fight in junior high school when I was in Wagner, and I'm going on about my business, and this girl wanted to fight me. I never knew like who she was or anything. I never knew how it came about. And I just knew all these group of kids was walking behind me. And I'm like, this is strange because these kids don't go home this way. And she was thick. She's bigger than me. And so she says, take your coat off. I want to fight you. I said, I ain't taking my coat off to fight you. So and she was like, well, I want to fight you. I'm like, would you just, I don't even know who you are. Like, come on. But anyway, I hit this girl with all I had. Do you hear me? And it did not phase her at all. I was like, okay, I'm in trouble. When I tell you this girl punched me in my head, I think my head like grew instantly. I was like, oh my goodness. So we're having this kind of fight because she's kicking my butt. But anyway, I got through. I left my book bag. I still had my coat on because I wasn't taking my coat off. I left my book bag and I'm just darting through this elementary school schoolyard where I was, got home, and it was just horrible. But I never shared with other people that I went to school with. And mind you, this was in junior high school, so I never shared with other people. But I wouldn't leave with my friends anymore because I didn't trust them. And one of them I still talk to this day, but I can understand like that stuff popping into your mind. I mean, we're adults now, but she was walking, with them and she never said anything. You know what I mean? She could have said, Mel, don't go this way. Mel, let's not. So I get the trust issue. And you already know my motto. I trust no one. So, but after that incident, I never walked home with any of my friends again. I waited for everybody to leave school and I would go out of the front door of the elementary school and I would run home. I did that for a long time. It just hurts my heart that young people have to lose their innocence because of horrible things that go on in school. And it doesn't happen with every child. Like, with your brother, he had the perfect experience in elementary, junior high, and high. You know
Oh,
what I
yeah,
mean?
high
So,
school.
huh?
I say especially in high school. Yeah.
He did. He did. And then as another thing, I think about like Imhotep, an opening opened up for Imhotep, and you wanted to go to Saul. I don't know if you remember that, but I was
Huh?
like, no, you got into Imhotep. It's an honor, and you had like one of the worst experiences. So parents go through too when their children go through. So I don't know. I still think about some of the things that went on in high school and it damages me. You know what I mean? So, but yeah. But I thank you for telling your story. It's important that you continue to get help and get help from someone who is not connected to the family because sometimes you might want to vent about some things that you don't want anybody to know about. But it's important to get help. Don't bottle it up. And don't ever think about harming yourself or harming anybody else because it's truly not worth it. Hurt people hurt people.
Yeah.
So, but thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you so much for joining me today. Please understand that when you harm one person, it goes well beyond that individual. It is time for us as African Americans to stop hurting other African Americans. I don't understand what we get out of that. But we are the only race who are killing each other off every day, who are hurting each other every day. It's time for us to unite and come together. Peace and love.